Hi, everyone. Welcome to Project Mercury Innovation Showcase for Cohort 3. You can tell from this title that this is the third cohort in Project Mercury, which happens to be the largest to date. I'm Dr. Liz Woodworth, Director of Research and Electives at the Air War College and a proud graduate of Project Mercury Cohort 2. I'm delighted to be emceeing this event with the leader of my team, Lieutenant Colonel Jason Newcomer, who led us to an illustrious victory at our last showcase.
Thanks, Liz. Appreciate that. It's a great pleasure to be working with you again. Wow, it seems like it was only just 4 months ago that we went through the same gauntlet that our contestants are about to go through this time, just getting beat up by the judges, getting some great feedback on any ideas. So I'm really excited about this. I too would like to welcome folks to what's going to be a fantastic event. A special thanks goes out to our strategic partners, MGM Works, the Innovatrium, and the University of Michigan for helping make Project Mercury and this event possible.
Well, Jason and I were part of the A team last cohort. We worked through the innovation process, which included how to win a bar fight and taking shots on goal. In addition to generating funded innovative solutions to real-world problems, I'm delighted to say that now my teammates have become colleagues and friends in an expanded innovation network. During this cohort, Jason and I served as coaches for some of the teams that will present their pitches today.
We're honored today to have with us 3 esteemed judges that will evaluate today's presentations and ultimately select the award winners. From the Pentagon, the Mobilization Assistant to the Deputy Chief of Staff for Strategy, Integration, and Requirements, Major General Boyd Parker. Commander, Air Force Research Laboratory, Brigadier General Heather Pringle, and the Dean of Innovation, Project Mercury Mastermind, and author of recent books like The Innovation Code and Creative Mindset, from the University of Michigan, Dr. Jeff DeGraff.
Thank you, judges, for being with us today. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it's my extreme pleasure to introduce our host, the Commander and President of Air University, Lieutenant General James Hecker.
Thanks, Liz. Appreciate that. Surprised you didn't mention all the books that I've written as well, but maybe we can get that next time.
Our bad, sir.
Yeah. Hey, I just wanted to say thanks to everybody in Cohort 3 for participating in Project Mercury. I know it's a lot of your time, and you don't get time off to do it. You're doing this kind of on your own time, so it's much appreciated. From my understanding, we had 7 teams of 35, which is great. And just to let you know what our long-term plan is, you know, we have a contract with Jeff and his team to produce 150 CPIs. After we graduate, after this capstone event, we'll have 95 of those 150. And then we're supposed to have 25 coaches. After this, we'll have 18 of those coaches. So we're looking at 2 more cohorts, cohort 4 and 5. At the end of that, I think we'll be able to not divorce ourselves. I don't want to say that from Jeff and the team, but we'll be able to start doing this on our own at Air University and still getting some help from Michigan, hopefully. And that should start around the beginning of 22. So the idea here would be we have the ability on campus here to bring people here, do the same kind of thing. We can do it in a 2-3 week thing in residence, or we could do it just like you guys have been doing it there. And then likewise, this will allow us the ability to go out to bases that have spark tanks and things like that and give updated, new innovation techniques, et cetera, that we learn along the way from the different folks that we have contact with. I too would like to thank General Parker, Brigadier General Pringle, who just got selected to be a 2-star. Congratulations, Heather, as well as Dr. DeGraff for participating and being the coaches for this event. As you know, our Chief of Staff has a saying, accelerate change or lose. And I think the innovation that we're doing here is in taking risk and those kind of things is what's going to be needed to meet the vision that our Chief of Staff of the Air Force has. So with that said, we look forward to seeing all your ideas, and thanks for everything that you're doing. So back to you, Liz.
Thank you for those comments, General Hecker. Cohort 3 took hundreds of planning hours, execution acumen, project management, and team leadership to execute. It's my pleasure to introduce the mastermind behind Cohort 3, the head coach, innovator in residence, and professor at University of Maryland, Dr. Ethan Eagle.
Thanks, Jason. I would like to cover 3 quick things and then get on with the show. First are my thank yous. Just to echo, thanks to General Hecker and the staff at MGM Works and our judges, General Parker and General Pringle and Jeff. Thanks to the Drzańskis, Jim and Celeste. You're really essential to herding the cats. Cool ones, I might add, from the Innovatrium. Thanks to our MCs, Liz and Jason, because thanks to them, you don't have to listen to just my bad jokes. The behind the scenes folks at the Innovatrium, Stanny, Sarah, Crystal, Yuha, Josh, and Anuja, your support has been essential. And really a huge thanks to innovators and residents that really push the teams at a critical moment to get back in their groove. That's Daryl, Michelle, Jim, Darren, Joe, and Rob. Finally, the coaches. So as a head coach, you have all of your assistant coaches. It's really no exaggeration to say that today would be impossible without you. When a Mercury recruit faces the fog of doubt or eventually realizes, like General Hecker just said, that, you know, this isn't really my job, I think those second thoughts are only natural. I heard mumblings of like, is Dr. Eagle completely crazy? And so for your assistance in translation of our guidance into these digestible bits for the Air Force, there's really never enough thanks. You see on your screen, I wanted to give the audience a behind the scenes look at this cohort of 7 graduating teams. As General Hecker said, we had 35 participants. It included coaches from Air University. We had participants from the headquarters Air Force A57, the Air Force Research Lab, the Strategic Studies Group. We had 4 Air Force fellows, 3 faculty from the Air Force Academy, and several members from the Spark Cells, not just Travis, but they have the coolest logo that I could find. Actually, 36 graduates, my apologies, today took our innovation genome assessment, and you see them broken down here. 8 engineers are Reds. These are team members dedicated to delivering at scale, solutions that might work everywhere in the Air Force, or turnkeys. 16 artists, green visionary leaders who look for radical change and how to disrupt the status quo. 12 sages, or yellows, these team collaborators that draw together diverse parts of the Air Force, work together to provide feedback on the potential solutions and interview stakeholders to learn more in depth about their problems. And interestingly, only 2 athletes, these raw competitors, blues who want to win, like and now or yesterday. Or you might see some of the tension in accelerate, change, or lose when the blue perspective is a minority voice. Without the innovation genome to navigate and identify constructive conflicts, this group doesn't necessarily get to the great idea. They take a great idea and they turn it into vanilla ice cream. Good, but not great. My favorite part of our cohort, was our opportunity to test ideas in our peer-to-peer clashes, which we did every 2 weeks. So you might be watching along at home and asking yourself, well, I want to compete. I'm happy to say that our applications are now open. So if you'd like to join, you can email, the email to reach us is mercury@innovatrium.org, or you can reach out to any of the people who you see on screen today and they'll be happy to connect you to us. Finally, my congratulations to the graduates of cohort 3. Through the mayhem events of all the duties and all of the duties of your day jobs, you kept striving. You're helping the Air Force to aim high, to seek grassroots innovation, to connect seekers and solvers, to communicate directly, modernize base management, advance the average Joe airman, and sustain resilience throughout the force. Our audience will soon hear much more about how you collectively address each of the action orders A, B, and C. I just want you to know that your pitches and videos will be evaluated prismatically. Jeff will highlight a team for their green wow, blue urgency, red process, and yellow teamwork. Judges also will provide an Innovation Excellence Award, and the short films that you see will be evaluated and judged separately. Everybody has something here with some stakes to win today. As you enter the ranks of the graduates of cohorts 1 and 2, we're nearing 100 innovators, and I'm excited not just of what you've already done, but what you'll do next. Some of you know, but now many of you will learn, my grandfathers, Bill Mason and Jim Eagle, were both lieutenant colonels in the Air Force. And from them, through me, let me say, you're doing us all proud. Liz, back to you.
Thanks, Ethan. Speaking of cohort 3, we started with 8 teams. Do you remember that, Jason?
Oh yeah, wait, I was the coach for the missing team. What was it, team 4?
That's right, team 4. Well, that just proves that even when you have a great coach, if a team's efforts don't gain traction, sometimes they have to regroup and find new passion on other teams.
So true, Liz. But the 7 teams that are remaining were intentionally designed to harness constructive conflict amongst the diversity on the team. They refined their problem statements through research and prismatic thinking. They pursued connections and context, typically outside of their own environments, connecting across the Air Force and across industry. They experimented with many shots on goals or brilliant ideas. They examined what was wow and what would leave that impact. They prepared a pitch, and they gave that pitch to our innovators and residents, who Ethan thanked for all their hard work with refining those. And then finally, they all enlisted a sponsor that they have or will pitch to really get these ideas to take root outside of this certification program.
And today, we feature 3 teams with live pitches. These will leave you encouraged about the future of the Air Force and innovation. However, we don't want you to miss out on seeing the other 4 teams who also worked on some vital Air Force issues. Each has produced a short film summary of their innovation journey. Now, we've got rules of engagement. Throughout today's presentations, feel free to ask questions in the chat. Members from each team will try to answer real time in the chat if they are able to, or you can drop contact info in the chat so you can connect and follow up after the showcase. Now, Jason is going to discuss where our teams found their inspiration for innovation.
Thanks, Liz. So in December of 2020, as Lieutenant General Hecker alluded to, General C.Q. Brown released the Chief of Staff of the Air Force Action Order to accelerate change across the Air Force. The Project Mercury Cohort 3 innovation projects support Action Orders A, B, and C. Action Order A, Airmen, describes a people-first approach. This means identifying attributes of airmen the Air Force needs and reviewing personnel and talent management systems to meet those identified needs.
I'm delighted to introduce the Average Joe's film that takes a look at talent management and challenges the status quo. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank the Average Joes for their hard work and above average creativity. I am honored to be their coach. Remember, you can use the chat feature to ask questions during the video. Engage.
All right, it looks like we're going to have to go back. We'll start at the beginning of this, but we're going to need to share sound for the video.
Copy that, Jim.
Force is a This is Joe. He's your average airman. In Action Order Alpha, Chief Brown states that the Air Force must cultivate and sustain a culture and environment of excellence in which all airmen, like Joe, can reach their full potential. Let's take Chief Brown's words and think about Joe. Joe's journey currently focuses on getting from point A, his entry to the force and assignment of specialization, to point B, retirement after achieving the highest rank possible through a myopic focus on leadership. There is little consideration for Joe's strengths. The Air Force is applying an outdated AAA mindset, you know, the old triptych one, to talent management. There is no accounting for detours or scenic routes, not to mention the accidents and traffic jams that every career encounters. We are proposing a Waze mindset, a process which considers Joe's strongest attributes, not only empowering him to reach his full potential, but creating a quality future force. Like Waze, this mindset requires inputs from both the environment, like the organization, and the individual to create the optimal career journey. We apply a human science methodology to identify personal skills needed in various positions. Our template is the first step in ultimately measuring the personal skills of individual airmen and matching them to optimal positions that empower them and their teams. Action Order Alpha is a huge task. We are providing a way to approach it. The Chief of Human Capital Future Force Design sponsored this effort, and we challenge you to reach out to her and participate in building a quality future force that will make the Air Force an attractive career choice for airmen, like Joe.
Thank you, Coach Liz and the Average Joes, for that awesome film presentation. I'm now excited and perhaps a little bit nervous to introduce the team that Coach Heidi Gustafson and I had the honor of coaching. We followed them during their 90-day journey and have no doubt that their idea will have a lasting impression on the Air Force. The feedback they received today will be critical as they pitch to their sponsor, the AETC Commander, Lieutenant General Webb, on Monday. Ladies and gentlemen, Team Ocho on Airman Resiliency.
Ladies and gentlemen, as you know, in August of 2019, Chief of Staff General Goldfein called for a resiliency tactical pause to address an alarming increase in Air Force suicides. I was a squadron commander at the time, and I'll never forget his request. He said he didn't know exactly what we should say or how we should say it, but we needed to get out there, connect with our airmen, and save somebody's life. So I got my squadron together, and I told them my story. This is my family in spring of 1982. My dad was an Air Force veteran with 12 years of service, and he used his benefits to get a law degree, and he became an attorney. He married my mom, and I was born soon after. Life seemed to be good, but less than 1 year after this photo was taken, my dad committed suicide. It was a bomb that tore my family apart. He never reached out for help. Nobody around him intervened before it was too late. When I look back at my dad's story, I honestly wonder what could have changed his outcome. Could things be different if he were an airman today? Here's the current situation. 131 bombs detonated in Air Force units and families last year. We're directing tremendous resources toward resiliency. But as suicide remains elevated, we're receiving a low return on that investment, as airmen continue to suffer in silence rather than connect with the many resources that already exist. In a recent Air Force Fellows discussion, Chief of Staff General Brown specifically highlighted his need for tools to generate awareness of struggling airmen, improve airmen's relationships, and build airmen's emotional intelligence. My team has conducted innovative research and engagement to get after these needs. Current initiatives are providing excellent resources, but we've identified what we believe are two root paradigm problems with our current approach to resiliency that keep airmen from tapping into them, and a solution to change that paradigm. Here's the first problem: misdirected focus. On the airman resiliency pyramid, most airmen spend most of their time around the base with sufficient resiliency margin. They're fit, they have good relationships, they get decent sleep. Sometimes airmen drift toward the top of the pyramid where resiliency margin is low. They exhibit destructive behaviors, they reach breaking points, and some ultimately take their own lives. Many of our resiliency efforts focus on the top of the pyramid through a one-size-fits-all suicide prevention training, True North's operational support teams that rotate temporarily and only target high-risk squadrons, counseling to strengthen post-trauma airmen, or late-game crisis intervention saves. For the minority of airmen that are near the top of the pyramid, today's paradigm requires them to reach out for help, or if they don't, for others to recognize and intervene. And there's the second problem: barriers to help. A 2017 RAND Community Feedback Tool report noted that significant numbers of airmen in need are not tapping into the resiliency resources that exist. And 58% of airmen who did reach out for help reported their top problem wasn't resolved. When airmen don't reach out, we're left to save lives using the same sensors my dad and the people around him used 40 years ago: our eyes and our ears. So which one of these airmen looks like they're hurting? The good news is we have many resources to help him. Unfortunately, our low resolution eyes and ears create a lack of awareness barrier between airmen and the help they need. We'd never fly an aircraft or drive a car with no instruments, yet that's exactly how we operate and maintain our human weapon systems. If a wingman overcomes this barrier of awareness, today's paradigm also features a barrier of interpersonal reluctance. If we are noticing, we aren't intervening. Our society and culture are becoming more and more biased toward individualism and image keeping, and away from help seeking and intervention. A 2020 RAND report on Task Force True North revealed airmen and commanders praised most elements, but positive effects fade when airmen lose contact with the resources at the squadron level. Airmen are simply more willing to utilize normalized resources they see others using, and more reluctant to go outside their comfort zone for professional help. But we don't have to keep operating within this paradigm. We've engaged, researched, and collaborated with many resiliency stakeholders and experts, including HAF A1Z Integrated Resilience, True North, AETC's Surgeon General, AFRL's 711th Human Performance Wing, Air University's Barnes and Eaker Centers, the U.S. Army Soldier Center, AFWorks, mental health providers, chaplains, and airmen directly. Based on our research and engagements, we propose an integrated solution to boost support for airmen at the base of the pyramid and to break through to barriers to help at the top. Here's the solution. The paradigm shifting core component is a person, the Resilience and Wellness Champion, or ROC. The ROC is an embedded military wingman on a full-time special duty assignment in a squadron. They're 100% resiliency focused 100% of their duty time. They'll build trust-based relationships at the wingman level, and their permanent squadron presence and engagement will normalize resiliency efforts. At the base of the pyramid, they'll be part personal trainer, part life coach, part educator, and part influencer. Near the top of the pyramid, the ROC's relationships will make them a trusted gateway to existing experts and resources. To enable the ROC to transform squadron resilience, you'll put powerful, modern tools in their hands. First, you'll provide the ROC potent analytics through wearable technologies and database tools that passively collect and leverage measurable wellness data. For reference, in our research and engagements with experts, sleep is the most commonly referenced need to improve airman wellness, followed by physical, emotional, and cognitive fitness. Airmen will get real-time, individually tailored insights on these factors and more. This awareness will fortify good habits near the base of the pyramid and provide indicators if they're drifting toward the top. These tools can also generate flags to cleared personnel for wellness interventions, even for illness. This data will be available to the chain of command in anonymized formats to provide indicators of unit resiliency and readiness. We've engaged extensively with an in-progress 550 soldier Army trial that we recommend you build on. Next, you'll equip the ROC with modern emerging learning curricula in the fields of socio-emotional learning, emotional intelligence, mindfulness, sleep, nutrition, and fitness. This immersive squadron level education will boost airmen's understanding of themselves and others up and down the pyramid and overcome barriers of awareness and reluctance. These continuum of learning elements align perfectly with our new airman leadership qualities. Finally, you'll empower the ROC with innovative policies to foster buy-in and boost wellness. These analytics and learning tools will enable you to shift from an episodic to a continuous evaluation and training paradigm. Through satisfactory participation in scoring, airmen can forego elements of the annual PFT, PHA, and suicide prevention training. This shift will address dishonest PHA response, pro-exercise, crash dieting or overtraining prior to a PFT, and tuning out annual training that's focused on suicide rather than wellness. You'll also extend current airmen-only resiliency resources to non-Air Force supporters that airmen designate. This will directly strengthen their close network of family or friends who engage them up and down the pyramid. If my dad had ROCs equipped with these tools in his squadron, perhaps he could have built more resiliency margin or had wingmen that overcame his barriers to help. You can't change his outcome, but you can improve the paradigm for today's airmen. The time is now to test the ROC, wielding these analytics, learning, and policy tools through a 1-year, $350,000 squadron-based experiment. AETC is the perfect organization to execute it, with built-in experts and key existing partnerships. You'll generate statistically significant MAGCOM-validated solutions that we believe will ultimately integrate seamlessly into the Air Force True North program. Colonel Ryan Keeney, the 49th Wing Commander at Holloman Air Force Base, is ready to host this experiment alongside their True North rollout in the 849th Aircraft Maintenance Squadron, but he needs your help to administrate and execute it. We've set the stage to hand off to you for experimentation. Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready to change the Air Force's resiliency paradigm?
Thanks, Chuck. I'd like to open the floor to Dr. Jeff DeGraff for his critique of the presentation, and then to all of the judges for questions.
Well, quickly, Leans, I thought you did a great job, and thank you for sharing the difficult story with us. I like the fact that you're looking at observational, technological, and personal ways of doing this. Triangulating it, is going to be a little difficult. One observation is that the trend you're seeing in the Air Force is the same trend we're seeing in universities with young people, right? So you're not alone, and this is more endemic. So there are also lots of data sources and alternative kind of strategies, and not alternative, they dovetail with this one, but there's a lot here. I like the idea, the metaphor of the rock. I have two potential improvement points. One resource. One is there's a whole body of literature called positive organizational scholarship. In fact, one of the great scholars of that is Wayne Baker, happens to be here at Michigan. But two things. Number one, talent doesn't scale very well. So the type of person who becomes the rock is going to have sort of like a salesperson, not only incredible networks, but incredible integrity, and somebody who people can come to. Those people are hard to find. It's sort of like it's sort of like saying all I need is a 6'8" wide receiver who can run a 4.2 40. Well, there are not many of them. And if they are, they're in the Hall of Fame. So one, I think you really have to spend a lot of your effort picking these people, and maybe picking them from the bottom up and not from the top down, right? Because the notion is that you're trying to be empathic and somebody that people can come to. The second thing is the ability to actually engage the bureaucratic organization in action. One of the problems we see over and over again, particularly like with the VA hospitals, is that somebody spots somebody who's in danger, but the system itself does not perform to the level that it has agreed to perform. And of course, this is a one and done. So when it happens, it just becomes a number. And of course, somebody's lost their life. So not only does this person have to be empathic, there has to be something in the command structure that says this is real. It's sort of like what happened with quality in the 80s, why American companies had terrible quality. They'd put somebody in charge and the operating officer wouldn't listen to them. This is the same kind of thing. We've put somebody in charge, and there's got to be somebody who's got a lot of stars who basically can enforce that. I think it's a great idea. It's something that we absolutely need to do, and I really like the way you presented this. So I'll turn it over to my colleagues.
Yeah, I guess I'll start it out. Hey, this rock that you talk about, is the rock an airman, or is it a civilian that we hire?
Yes, sir. This is a military member. We have conceptualized E5, E6, probably something that we can add to a developmental special duty. At least for the experiment, we could have them be a developmental special duty ad at Holloman.
Yeah, but this will be their full-time job, you're saying, right?
Yes, sir.
So do you remember, and I don't know exactly how it is now, but when I grew up in the squadrons, we always had a chaplain that was, dedicated to our squadrons. Is it still that way? Okay. How often?
Sir, the True North.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry, sir. Yes, sir. The True North, that's one factor within the True North program that's rolling out, which is religious support teams. The issue there is they do great work, but they are not dedicated individually to the squadron level. So they're still shared at the group or the wing or the base level. And so they're assigned to a squadron, but they don't do 100% of their duty in that squadron. So
we had, to me, it's kind of like Dr. DeGraff was saying. I went through squadrons where we had a chaplain assigned to us that was there 3 to 4 hours a day, and he would just be roaming the squadron, getting to know people, doing those kind of things. And he was the best resource that I had as a squadron commander. I luckily got a good one because people would go up to him just because he was a confidant, right? And he was there, he was one of us, and people, would pull him aside and talk to him. And then we had other ones that, that showed up once a week and nobody ever took advantage of it because he was just there once a week. So I like the idea of having someone embedded in there. You said it's $350,000 and that's going to be their permanent job. Does that include the manning? I mean, are we getting every squadron an extra person to do this?
Yes, sir. So it's important to keep separated the experiment that we're proposing versus what would be a full Air Force implementation. So the experiment we expected costs about $350,000. That's to embed 2 rocks in a squadron at Holloman, to buy the technologies and pay for the database services for that experiment. The full Air Force rollout, that would be something that would have to be looked at as this is validated through the experiment. What would actually be the cost of implementation long-term into the full Air Force? If we're going to put these into every squadron with 100 people or more, you're looking at a couple thousand airmen. So that would double the size of the DSD program now. The question is it worth it? Is the juice worth the squeeze? That's why we propose the experiment to figure that out.
Yeah, because as you say, right now we have so many programs that just aren't used, right? I heard another brief on suicide and it said exactly what you said, that they're just not used, so get rid of them, use that extra money,
right,
to try an experiment or something like that. So anyways, I thought it was a good presentation. And again, I appreciate you giving your personal example up front. I think that adds a lot to it.
Yes, sir.
Hey team, this is Sean Anderson. I've got a question coming over from the YouTube chat. This is from Dias Spark. What does deployment look like for the embedded member? Overhire or additional duty, and what barriers are there for entry?
Right, great question. So this is full-time embedded person. This is their duty. If the squadron is a squadron that does deploy en masse as a unit, the person should probably deploy with them. If it's a rotational deployment set up through air expeditionary forces rotations, then that person would probably stay with the bulk of the unit. And then again, it's a full-time hire, probably something like what we see today as a developmental special duty.
And this is Master Sergeant Hermes from the team as well. Just to add some credence to what Lieutenant Colonel McNeil is talking about, we are already doing this slightly with the Master Resilience trainers. But it's a one-time touch at FTAC or an annual Wingman Day type thing. So we already have the people in place with a certain amount of training. We just need to push them down closer to the unit level.
We've got just about enough time for one more quick question.
I'll ask it. This is Brigadier General Heather Pringle. So how does this I love the presentation. I thought you did a great job of picking an important issue. And so I'm sorry for your loss, but it's very encouraging that you're using this energy to help somebody else down the line. And as has been discussed among my colleagues here, there has been a lot of interest in this, and past efforts have not succeeded, whether it's the community resilience personnel. It's certainly getting the attention of the CABE, the Commander's Action and Information Board. So why have those past efforts failed and this one should succeed?
Ma'am, great question. I would say it's the nexus of all of these concepts at the squadron level with a permanent presence. The way that we see True North working, the parts that are loved by commanders and airmen are the close contact at the squadron. And the problem is most of those resources aren't actually assigned permanently to the squadron. In fact, none yet. They're working on getting some counselors, some civilian counselors that are assigned permanently. But this peer level wingman who's permanently dedicated to resiliency at the squadron as a gateway for all these resources, Airman Family Readiness, Mental Health Clinic, MWR, all the resiliency things that we have put in place for airmen, it's now a person. It's Joe or Sally or Steve. That is your resource. It's not a label of an office you need to go across space to go visit. So in our mind, that is what makes this proposal different. It's that permanent presence at the squadron through a person, a dedicated person.
And General Pringle, just one more thing on that note. So you bring up such a good point about all of the resources that have been brought lot to this fight in the past. And it's to the tune of about $1.4 billion for resilience that the Air Force spends annually on resilience alone. And so look at the return on investment for that $1.4 billion for the Air Force. Our suicide rates are going up. Mental health issues are still increasing. Morale, it arguably is either going up or down. We don't know. But what is the return on investment for that $1.4 billion? And now we're going to go out with the True North program. So we're going to go with legacy tools and still use them down at the unit level, which is great. But we think that this will be an accelerator to get a greater return on investment for what the Air Force has already put down.
Thank you so much, everyone, for this really invigorating conversation. And bravo, Team Ocho, really terrific presentation. Now we're going to take a turn to Action Order B, bureaucracy. It says the Air Force needs to speed up its decision-making process. Changing design processes will improve effectiveness and efficiency, allowing more space for innovation.
Thanks, Liz. And with that, next up, Team 6 prepared a short film presentation that addressed the frustrations that all squadron commanders have had, and we know each of you can appreciate. They were coached by Major Scott Vandewater and Colonel Johnny Barnes. Remember, during the video, you can include questions in the chat on YouTube or Zoom for the team members to reply to. Ladies and gentlemen, the Technophiles presenting on the Commander's Dashboard.
Innovation comes in many different forms. It doesn't just need to be the next hypersonic weapon. Sometimes we have to reimagine our current tools to make better use of time. This innovation team wants to get airmen with a big A, their time back to do the actual mission. Our people are feeling overwhelmed by all the different databases, different locations with disparate interfaces. In fact, commanders are spending a lot of time on this. So much so that 2/3 of commanders make personnel and admin actions a higher priority than the mission. Luckily, Omni Federal has a web application that solves these issues. With their fusing of different databases and interfaces, they will be able to allow us to access the Air Force portal to get a lot of our tasks done in one location. And even better, it'll work on your smart devices as well, allowing your average squadron commander to holistically assess how their unit is doing on various indexes and also look at how individual airmen are doing as well. So, what can you do to help us? As you can see, there are many different moving parts and organizations working towards this final goal of fusing all these different databases and interfaces. In fact, there's beta testing going on right now, and there's at least 20 of the databases fused into the current Omni Federal application. Again, if you can help us, we can have it in the entire Air Force by the end of 2022. So please, with your support, we can give airmen their time back so they can focus on their people and the mission in good time.
Thank you so much, Team 6. Next up is Team 5, Collaborative Tissue, ready to give us a live pitch in the bureaucracy category. They were coached by Lieutenant Colonel Steve Marshall and retired Colonel Celeste Drajensky. Ladies and gentlemen, Collaborative Tissue presenting Innovation Consultancy.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Captain Felix Knudsen from Air Force Futures, coming to you from Team 5 Collaborative Tissue. We'll be presenting our project, the Headquarters Air Force Innovation Consultancy. But first, I'd like to introduce our team members, Colonel Michael T-Man Trouterman and Group Captain Gaz Littlechild of the Strategic Studies Group, Miss Becky Gorman and Mr. Leighton Grant of Air Force Futures, and Senior Master Sergeant Phil Edwards of Phoenix Spark at Travis Air Force Base. Leighton will give a brief overview of our project. Phil will give you the same successful pitch that we gave to the Vice Chief last week. Becky will wrap it up, and then we'll open up for questions. Over to you, Leighton.
Collaborative Tissue's problem and solution is people-focused. People are the most valuable resource an organization has. People are also a scarce resource. As our first external discussion with the manpower innovators proved, and would be difficult to acquire for our project, the team decided the best way to gain access to this resource was to enter the Trojan horse of another vice chief initiative. As well stated by Jeff DeGraff, better to be a prudent passenger who reaches his destination with ingenuity than the mythical lone hero who has lost his way along the way. The Strategic Innovation and Incubation Cell is a small team being established by the Chief of Staff's Strategic Studies Group, already approved by the Vice Chief. They are charged with linking strategic ends with innovative ways and means. In our successful pitch to him, we requested that one of the pillars of the SI2C be to act as a headquarters innovation consultancy. The three pillars are the incubation of strategic level innovative ideas, driving innovation through 360-degree innovation education and mentoring, and being the connective tissue. You've heard about the basic concepts of our project. Now it's time for the Vice Chief's pitch. Over to you.
Thanks, Leighton. As part of Project Mercury, we've been working on a problem within the innovation ecosystem that starts with this question. How can the Air Force's strategic headquarters more effectively utilize the Air Force-wide innovation ecosystem in helping to accelerate the resolution of their identified problem sets? Our answer is simple: clear and direct communication to align the Air Force innovation with strategic priorities. I'll start with a short story. In March of 2020, we were all focused on how to support the DoD in the fight against COVID while keeping the mission on track. On Monday, the 16th, the Pentagon moved to telework. And by Friday, Dr. Roper, the SSG, AFWorks, and AFVentures began brainstorming. In a weekend, the Strategic Planning for Acquisition COVID-19 Task Force, named the DAFACT, was stood up, and within a week, the team was off to the races, launching SBIR solicitations for innovative new ways to do business. Within 3 weeks, over 3,000 submissions were received. But because we didn't have a standing, robust network of innovation POCs across the Air Staff and MAJCOMs, it took a month to begin putting the pieces together and start developing contracting options for the DAF. As we've worked on this problem over the last few months, we've analyzed where the strategic problem owners, key innovation connections, and creative solution providers lie, as well as how they communicate their efforts. This slide is a strategic level representation of what our solution aims to achieve. At the center is the problem, the message that's not getting everywhere consistently and coherently. The colors outside are the sometimes connected but sometimes disparate actors. Our solution is the black middle ring that binds it all together. Throughout Project Mercury, we focused on prismatic thinking, the perspectives that lead to success or failure in any innovative enterprise. This slide represents our team. The structure of our military is that of a control and compete organization, logical and disciplined, yet bureaucratic and inflexible, strategic and skillful, yet uncollaborative. In order to accelerate change and drive meaningful innovation, we'll need to resource our create and collaborate personalities as well. They're creative and adaptive, though impulsive and undisciplined, trust building and cooperative, yet sometimes unassertive and slow to act. This is very effective technique, enabling innovative teams to look at all sides of their problems, challenge ideas and test theories rapidly while ensuring maximum value and implementing lasting solutions. In order to challenge our problem statement and refine our solution, we needed to draw on our own Rolodexes of key players in the innovation space. We connected with teams and major stakeholders whose organizational models fit into all areas of the innovation genome to gain a broad range of perspectives. We conducted interviews with MAJCOM leaders, staffs, Air Force and DoD innovation centers, as well as leaders in corporate innovation. Some told us what we suspected, that a golden thread to connect the dots between strategic problems with the creative experts that are already exploring novel solutions was needed if we want to break out of stovepipes and rapidly solve problems in a new way. Some told us what we didn't know, and some contradicted our assumptions. During some of our shots on goal, we conducted a tabletop exercise that ran through multiple scenarios to determine what this golden thread should look like. On the left, you can see some of the ideas that would be a miss, and on the right, some of the ideas that hit the target. After analyzing all of our shots on goal, we realized that transparent and independent, clear and direct communication built on growing relationships throughout the innovation ecosystem could get the job done. The 2009 DARPA Network Challenge offered a $40,000 prize to explore the roles of the internet and social networking play in real-time communications, wide area collaboration, and the practical actions required to solve broad scope time-critical problems. Teams were given 30 days to prepare and locate 10 red weather balloons placed around the United States. The winning team from MIT used a technique similar to multi-level marketing to recruit participants, with the prize money to be distributed up the chain of collaborators and all remaining income to be given to charity. The team's strategy for finding the balloons was explained on their website. We're giving $2,000 per balloon to the first person to send us the correct coordinates, but that's not all. We're also giving $1,000 to the person who invited them, then $500, and so on. The key takeaway here is that though MIT joined only a week before kickoff and started with only 4 initial participants, just like the DAFAC team, their technique reaped over 5,000 collaborators, and they located all 10 balloons in under 9 hours. Additionally, the recursive nature of the incentives had 2 beneficial effects. First, participants were motivated to involve others, as these new people would not become competitors for the reward, but rather cooperating partners. Second, people not located in the US were motivated to participate by passing along information, even though they had no way of locating a balloon in person. MIT's success relied on a curated and incentivized network. If there is a golden thread of messaging we want to send throughout our innovation ecosystem, then it must become a golden web, linking all areas of the ecosystem with the same clear messaging. Innovation players are already incentivized to solve problems at the tactical, operational, and strategic levels. The creative freedom to work on challenging problems in the face of resistance to change is often reward enough. A top-level team to connect the ecosystem to the strategic problem sets that the half staffs are engaged in will only increase these intrinsic rewards, while arming problem owners with the novel solutions that our innovators are already pursuing. How will this team, the architects of the Golden Web, add value? With 3 simple components. First, the half innovation consultancy will need to start with the right leaders, people with the competitive drive and vision to accelerate change, balanced with proven collaborators to establish lasting connections throughout the ecosystem. Second, like every innovative enterprise, the HIC must have a champion, providing the team with the authority and freedom to translate the strategic priorities of the problem owners to the innovators. Given the multitude of actors, often at high levels, this authority and freedom would preferably come from top US Air Force leadership. Third, the HIC, the Golden Web, the missing puzzle piece, will be the focal point of the Strategic Innovation Forum, connecting an extended virtual team from all corners of the ecosystem with clear and direct communication to align Air Force innovation with strategic priorities. This model outlines the precise leaders and organizations in the innovation decision-making structure. In line with the simplicity of the HIC, creating it requires 0 additional manpower. Its national place is as a core team of the newly approved Strategic Innovation and Incubation Cell, the SI2C. This is our Trojan horse. So looking back at the DAF COVID-19 Acquisitions Task Force, facing one of the least foreseen and greatest challenges our nation has ever known, we believe that our envisioned HIC, with a robust and pre-built network, a golden web of incentivized and empowered innovators, could have created a curated and effective problem-solving team of SMEs much quicker. It might have only taken a few days or even hours instead of weeks. Bottom line, our ask for the Vice Chief's formal approval of and acknowledgement of the need for the half innovation consultancy. Under SI2C effectively, but with the authorities to develop the direct and transparent communications plan, build the virtual innovation forum, and translate strategic intent to help connect the dots between our innovation ecosystem and the staffs directed to tackle strategic problems. And the Vice Chief did approve with 2 thumbs up. Take us home, Becky.
Becky, you may be muted.
Sorry, a little bit of issue with presenting and trying to unmute myself. So now that the Vice Chief has given the go-ahead for the half innovation consultancy, what's next? The SSG is actively recruiting to staff the 5-member SI2C team. A lieutenant colonel is going to be the director, a GS-14 is going to be the deputy, and a major plus 2 others will round out the team. Some members have actually already been tentatively identified. After these initial folks arrive in April, they're going to put out a plan of action within about 30 days, and then the team should be IOC by early summer. The team will begin reaching out to create the virtual network. They're going to start attending strategic update meetings, which was actually offered by the Vice in our pitch, and they'll start communicating possible efforts that link back to strategic needs. Thank you so much for your time today. Does anyone have any questions for the team?
Thank you so much, Team 5. Now remember, if you can't get your question in here, drop it in the chat and teams will be available for your answering your questions and talking after the program. But right now I'd like to open it up to Major General Parker for his critique and then to all of the judges for their questions. Thank you.
Great presentation, and this one hits close to home to us here on the half. So very much appreciate your thought and your efforts going into this. And those of you in Air Force Futures have really some inside baseball looks into this problem set. So I can't argue with the vice chief. So you know, commendable to you guys for already getting to the vice chief and the thumbs up, and what a great champion. I mean, having worked with previous vice chief on some innovative solution type of efforts, you've got the right point of entry clearly, and General Alvin as a great leader is going to be a great champion of this effort. So hats off to you guys for getting it across that really across the starting line there. I think that's fabulous. I don't have any questions. You know, I'm excited to see you guys get moved forward with this, because I think this is a real challenge we have here at the half. We have a lot of disconnected entities that have a lot of great ideas, and it is quite a challenge to keep those focused. So I think, you know, using crowdsourcing and some of the the virtual collaboration that you intend to do, we should be able to move out really fast. And I look forward to watching you guys work. I'll pass it on to anybody else that'd like to add on. Thanks.
I'll jump in here. I in my career, built a lot of these, as you might imagine, and probably the most well-known of these is the IBM Solutions business. The challenge that you're going to have when you build something horizontal and informal this way is that the formal system, the bureaucracy, will try to co-opt it or will try to integrate it into a larger system. And so you have to be very careful to remain a federation. And more importantly, the people who you put in here are not the innovators, they're the integrators. There's a difference. They're creating a line of sight to where there's a solution. So I want you to think of it sort of like what happened with COVID-19. Step one was the formal systems all failed, right? We got nowhere with it. What happened was what emerged were these creativity clusters, and they sort of emerge around these informal thought leaders. So there's this organic piece to this, if you will, that's really the key to this. One of the sure signs of something that won't work is if you do this in a more administrative way or bureaucratic way, or saying this is at this level and this is this person because they're at this level, because they simply won't have the range, the line of sight, and the horizontal connections required to make this work. It's a great idea. It's something we need to have, just something to look out for.
Yeah, thanks, sir. Absolutely. And it's something the Vice Chief questioned us on, and something we assured him that as long as we have the authority and the remit for this team to remain completely independent, then and he supports the feeding them of the information from the strategic level, then that's one way we would hope to prevent that from happening.
So let me make sure I get this right. So the idea is, I think you said 5 people that are going to come across in the center and form this kind of organization that networks virtually out horizontally across the Air Force. Is that what I'm kind of hearing? And they bring in innovative ideas to this group, and this group decides if they're going to be implemented or not?
No, sir, it's a bit more consultancy than that. It's how to make a better use of the organizations that do what you've just said. So how can we support AFWorks, SpaceWorks, the Squadron Innovation Fund, the Vice Chief Challenge teams? How can we support all of those folks actually doing the innovating by providing them with strategic messaging of, so for instance, instead of waiting for the reports to come out of the HAF in terms of the action orders, when the chief and the vice chief are getting their updates on how those action orders are going, how do we get a group of people that are able to translate some of what might be low-hanging fruit and pass it straight out to the innovators straight away, rather than waiting for the final report? So it's that kind of link that we don't have at the moment, where the innovators can get hold of the information they need early, but right up at the strategic level, so they can work that golden thread all the way back to the action orders.
Okay. Yeah, I just see, we got so many of these innovation groups out there now. I mean, we have a bunch at SOS, a bunch just here in Air University, and then all the spark tanks and everything. Just trying to, who's going to manage all these ideas and decide which ones go forward and which one don't. And, even, with the ones that we're going to get here today, how are we going to make sure that they get the visibility and that we have the infrastructure capable of taking in all these new ideas and implementing the ones that are good? And Dr. DeGraff may have some, some help on this. That's where I'm trying to get my head around.
Actually, Rob Olson, the former head of product development at Procter & Gamble, is online here. And he points out that when P&G, when Lafley went to this, each group had a competency that they were responsible for. And so there are ways, and organic ways, to make sure that we're not getting each other's lanes served, right? But it's still horizontal, it's still a consortium. But I share your concern that it seems like every week there's a new thing popping up. So I think that what this team is trying to do is actually resolve that. I think they're trying to actually be sort of almost like air traffic control on that. I believe that's pushback team. If I've got this wrong, I believe that's part of their pitch.
Yeah.
So air traffic control is a good analogy. One we used as well was the sort of the flight safety governing team, where it's a case of we're not doing the flight safety itself. We're just providing the golden thread of what the aim of all of the effort is, so that should you right at the spark tank have a priority issue decision to make, for instance, the one you go for is the one where you can tie that golden thread all the way back to a strategic priority, if you can only support one of those two innovation projects, for instance.
Just to interject real quick, having done this at P&G, kind of on a global scale, but of course a much smaller scale than the Air Force, still it can unleash this kind of informal structure, smartly managed, adds almost zero incremental staff. We had 2 per core competency, and yet unleashed huge amounts of innovation that would have stayed dormant just by facilitating the informal connections, the non-hierarchical informal connections. Investing a tiny bit here can unleash a whole bunch of reward.
I've got a class going on right now, Innovation 101, an elective for ACSC, and I've got a mix of Navy, Army, and Air Force students. And almost across the board, one of the things they said upsets them is that the innovation system that the Air Force in particular has is too damn complicated. They said, I pointed out to this same class 2 years ago and 3 years ago that the Army a couple of years ago started having an idea program again after not having it for about 4 or 5 years. And the way that they did it when I talked with them was they said, okay, there's one button. You go to that one button, you turn in your idea, and one central button handler gets your idea, and they look at their wealth of people around the Army and they go, okay, who would be best to evaluate this and help this person? And they send it straight to that person, regardless of where they're located. Whereas my students complained, they said, well, you got a Air Force handbook on innovation and it's 219 pages. You want to turn in an idea to Ideascape, and they come back at you and want you to fill in form after form and do their work for them.
Mike, I don't mean to cut you off. We have to move on. So we have time for General Pringle if she had a question or a comment to get her comment in, and then we have to press forward. Sorry about that.
Oh, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Mike. I thought that was going to be really brilliant and help the team. I guess my major question just had to do with deconflicting with spark cells that are out there. I think to Mike's point, it is a complex innovation ecosystem out there. This certainly adds another entity to that. And there are some local efforts with all the spark cells and all the hashtag works. So did you talk to the spark cells to get some information on that? Over.
Well, my students have got 3 projects, and one of them is simplifying the Air Force Innovation System. So they've just started going out and they're going to be contacting MGM Works, and I'm connecting them up with Auburn University. One of them just came from working at AFWorks. So they're going to try and gather the information and see if they can come up with as close as possible to a one button and, launch and not forget, but a launch and not get sucked into a whirlpool of time consuming stuff.
I'm Colonel Trauderman. If you allow, regarding our golden thread, of course, the spark cells offer great work, but what Gas Littlechild mentioned, the connecting the dots part is, I think, extremely important, not coming from above. So transmitting and translating the strategic objective to the tactical level, but also gaining situational awareness in our HIC about what's going on out there. So maybe even being able to align different spark cell efforts or different tactical level efforts we're becoming aware of over time, so that we do not duplicate effort. And I think one of the biggest advantages of our idea, our construct, is that we don't intend to have ownership of any innovation project. So we don't need to push anything of any of our ideas forward. We're here to connect the dots, and we do not intend to add bureaucracy or do under any other ideas. Over.
All right, folks, thank you so much. That's all the time we have for Team 5. Thank you, Team 5, for that. And remember, as we're doing these Q&A sessions, the Q&A sessions are for the judges to communicate with the teams. And then for all the comments and questions, we can use the chat and have some really rich discussions. And even after the event is over, we will break out the teams into their action order rooms for further discussion. So thank you for that. Our third team in the bureaucracy category has prepared a short film presentation. They were coached by Lieutenant Colonel Dave Sugar Lyle and Lieutenant Colonel Nick Braun. Be sure to use the chat feature to ask some questions during the video. And ladies and gentlemen, Team 2, Rumble, presenting on getting grassroots innovations across the finish line.
Where do airmen with big ideas go to get them heard? This is our friend Mary. Mary's a lieutenant colonel in the Air Force. She's an instructor. She's also an orthopedic surgeon. Mary has a great idea and has created a prototype hat that adjusts in the back to accommodate varying sizes for women's hair depending on how it's done. Many women have 1 to 2 hats to accommodate this. When she asked, what do I do with this idea? She was told to go to these different places, fill out forms, record a pitch, wait for maybe a spark tank that's tied to a conference down the road. Mary does not have time for that. Our junior airmen who are working hard do not have time for that. This is how we propose the ecosystem for innovation looks like today. And we ask, how can we end innovation as an additional duty, develop a structure to harvest, shepherd, prototype, and implement ideas from already motivated airmen to produce positive outcomes for our Air Force? We propose an innovation acceleration center based on 4 pillars of advocacy, iteration, education, and acceleration. customer service teams that collect grassroots ideas from already existing social media platforms to get them seen. Iteration, coaches that provide guidance and refine ideas for airmen and link them to established innovation cells. Education, continue and develop folks through programs like Project Mercury, being the innovation doctrine center of our Air Force. And acceleration, blending contracting, acquisitions, and legal teams and the innovations ecosystem with senior level authority and spending power, utilizing previously identified SIF funds, similar to the way the Air Force Safety Center operates today. I ask you, ladies and gentlemen, what are we waiting for?
Thank you for that short film, Team 2. What are we waiting for, right? So what we're waiting for now is Action Order C. Action Order C competition explains that airmen need to understand their role in the long-term strategic power competitions between the US, Russia, and China. The Air Force must move its understanding of competitors, ambition, and ways of war to inform how it organizes, trains, and equips airmen. We have 2 teams presenting in this category.
Liz, I'm sorry we got you muted.
And that was some of my best emceeing. Okay.
I was just about to mimic your voice and be Liz. I was about to do it.
Well, I'm happy to introduce Team 3 Redacted. They were coached by Major Adam Miles and Major Brian Rajan Ralston. Ladies and gentlemen, Team 3 Redacted presents on how to ease sharing in a culture of overclassification. Go.
Thanks, Liz. This is Lieutenant Colonel Zach Gray. I'm going to present on behalf of Redacted. Yeti, you got the slides up and running yet? All right. This is Unlock, Accelerate, and Connect, America's Greatest Strength. Sorry about the technical difficulties. Let's see. All right, Yeti.
You're not seeing them.
We got them now, Yeti, I think.
Seeing my slides.
Yeah, we got them. Can you hear me?
Yep, we've got you.
Yeti, you got the next slide?
Yep.
Okay. Sorry. Let's start with the context. We're in the midst of a reemergence of global power competition.
Go ahead.
China and Russia are catching up. For a long time, we were a fixed target. And if we're honest, we know that we won't be able to compete with just simply mass and brawn. China has us vastly outnumbered. They're reaching economic parity. Further complicating the strategic picture, technology is democratizing around the world, and we can no longer rely on our old ways to win. In this context, we need to focus on what our competitive advantage is. We need to figure out how we stay out front and how we keep first. And being first requires speed and ingenuity. We need to rapidly change the rules of the game. We need to be a more nimble adversary and a less static target. Being more nimble requires ingenuity, and that ingenuity springs from one place, our people, to collaborate with speed to meet the challenges we are facing today. Thankfully, this is an area where we have traditionally excelled. American ingenuity has fueled innovations like the iPhone, reusable rocketry in the commercial sector. These disruptions are constantly changing the stakes. Militarily, we've fueled the game-changing innovations such as stealth and unmanned CAS. And just this week, we're getting ready to fly a helicopter on Mars. The bottom line is our ingenuity changes the game. It leads and it drives and it underwrites our national security. When our team started on day one, that was our aim. That was our framework, the lens of which we saw our projects. We started with the problem statement of how do we better connect seekers and solvers. And after some 50 interviews with over 25 organizations working on our toughest problems, we heard a theme, a consistent pain point: security, security, security. Our security practices are causing friction. People all over sensed it. Some were working on it. Most were tolerating it, and we set out to see if we could fix it. When it comes to security, everybody has their own story. And we in the military, we're masters of perseverance and overcoming, and that's typically good. But that drive and perseverance also inhibits our ability to feel the pain we need to motivate the changes we must. Take these two simple examples. We met an airman who was PCSing from a new role, moving from DC to Edwards Air Force Base, will stay working on the exact same programs he's working on in DC, has a stellar record of performance and no security infractions. And currently, he told us a story where he was read out, read in, pretty standard practice. The problem is, on the other side, it took him about 6 months to get back in the game. For whatever reason, bureaucratic filling out paperwork and our old processes didn't get him back in the game. We asked ourselves, does this improve security? And further, does this show that we trust that airman? Let's take a look at another example. This example comes from our test community, where she described her and her peers coming together to cross-brief and collaborate to solve some of our toughest challenges, leveraging the diversity of their experience from around the community. However, after the week was all over, traditionally, all participants were debriefed and forbidden to discuss what they heard. Is this 1 week of collaboration sufficient to overcome all of our obstacles? Does this improve our security? Now, I know these anecdotes may seem small, but in aggregate, they matter. Their effect compounds, and days here, minutes there, all add up to delays fielding real combat power and degrade our ability to win. Like dust in an engine, the damage sneaks up, it accumulates slowly, imperceptibly, until one day, suddenly, the engine seizes. We can't wait for that to compel change. That'll be too late. To accelerate change or lose, we need to take a hard look at our security practices today. Next slide, yeah. Oh, we lost him.
Zach, if you don't mind, just go ahead and press forward with the brief. We'll see if Yeti can get back with the slides. Press on, buddy.
Okay, thank you. Now, we know we all need security, and we want to be clear, we're not here for the abolishment of security practices. And our security teammates are not the enemy. As an Air Force, we've maintained laser focus on air power and its effects, and that shows. Sadly, we don't think we've placed the same focus on our security systems, and frankly, we think they've not aged well. They were designed to protect us in an era that no longer exists. Modern technology can help us improve these processes, but our old unquestioned habits are standing in our way. So where can we begin? We believe we can unlock, accelerate, and connect. And I'll walk through each one of these high-value targets that we uncovered briefly. First, we want to unlock. The problem here is overclassification. We want to unlock information and maximize sharing with our allies, with our industry partners, with our sister services, and with each other. We want to protect what we must, but only what we must. To do this, we envision a tool that can help our derivative classifiers every day to sift through all the guidance and recommend appropriate markings. We found people who are already working this, and they're getting really close to a better solution. Second, we want to accelerate. We want to slash the timeline it takes to access our human capital from months to days. We do this by changing how we measure risk, moving closer to a more objective solution, one free from antiquated billets and biases. By leveraging the data we already possess, we want to build tools to aid our security teams to make these decisions move faster and make them more consistent. We want to eliminate the redundant, automate as much as possible, and apply our limited security resources to the tasks that still require human judgment, thereby speeding the access to talent. And finally, we want to connect. We want a way to connect cleared people to cleared people safely, securely, and rapidly. We need a way to move beyond people's memories and personal networks to connect all trusted people to solve our tested problems. We have developed action plans for each one of these. We've found a whole bunch of people willing to help. The time is now, we believe, to unlock, accelerate, and connect, to improve our ability to win. Yeti, you got the next slide? Okay. I'll keep going. If I leave you with nothing else, it's this. We need to protect what matters most. We want to select and apply the right tool for the job. We've got 3 ideas to get us started, to unlock, accelerate, and to connect. What we're calling for is security, purpose-built for today's world. Now, if you're ready for change, this is what we need from you. We need you to be a champion for a small team to take these high-value targets to reality. We need a security expert, someone open-minded and passionate about making improvements to the system. We also need an automation expert, gifted in process improvement and ready to make change. And we need them to evaluate our armor, decide if it's effective, and then decide whether or not we need to keep it to help us win. We have a line of sight to immediate next steps. We found people with resources. What we need from you, sir, is to be a champion, to remove barriers and advocate, to help us unlock, accelerate, and connect. And with that, we'll take your questions.
Thank you so much, Zach. And to Team 3, the team's name is Redacted. It's just perfect. Okay, I'd like to open the floor to Brigadier General Pringle for her critique, and then for our other judges. And don't forget, you have questions, put them in the chat, and a bunch of team members will be here after the program to talk more. Thanks so much. General Pringle.
Well, thank you, Team Redacted, for hitting up an issue that would have enormous impact. And of course, it is a balance between protecting those things that are keep us ahead of our adversaries with the speed with which we need communication and or innovation to occur. So I do agree with you on that. So I had a couple questions. Sounds like you want to build a tool that helps with classification and then better understand how you can connect folks. And it sounds like multiple level security is also a part of it. So the 2 questions that I have are, 1, to what degree is the culture that we currently have part of the barrier with which to get to faster communication? So it's one thing to have a tool, it's another to affect the actual thought processes that people have and what they grew up with in terms of historical practices for protecting information. So that's a long-standing concern that they might have. And then secondly, have you connected with the folks that are working to deliver an enterprise IT as a service, but for the it would be for the SAP community. There is an effort that's ongoing in that area, and trying to look at this multiple levels of security, connecting across. They're building the tool, and it also links to what OSD is leading in terms of an IT tool to allow that cross flow of communication.
Yes, ma'am. I'd like to take a brief second before I answer your question to introduce the rest of my teammates, if that's okay. With me, I've got Yeti Welch, who's a Joint Mobility Fellow at Scott Air Force Base. Major Galen Hammersberg, who's on our half A5 team. Major Nicole Handy, who's doing her IDE fellowship as an AU instructor or ACSE instructor at AU, and Dr. Paul Fleets, who works in your lab, ma'am, PhD in chemistry, working in your air vehicles directorate. I think you hit the nail on the head. And what we envision is the culture change is going to need to be driven a little bit by these tools as well. Because one of the several things that we've found is we've fundamentally culturally relied on the same tools and tactics. And we downloaded a bunch of security classification guides, and the standardization on what is classified and what is not classified, frankly, doesn't exist. And our tools will show us that once we try and translate them into military applications. We do have people who are working on these problems disparately. You've got some SBIR contracts that are currently underway working on specifically the classification problem. And what we're really trying to do is convince ourselves that we can use these latest technologies to increase our confidence so that we can get access. One of the things that our team really struggled with was finding access to those data. For me, currently, I'm at a fellowship. I have no access to classified networks. So you can imagine me asking questions about what are we doing and what data do we actually have didn't go as well as it could, which is why we're calling for the security expert. But we think that we have talked to some of these people. We have not talked to the people in the SAP community specifically. They've talked around having something going on, but we haven't gotten the specific details. Yeti, did you want to add anything to that?
Yes, ma'am, to your first question about degree, the degree of the culture as a barrier, it absolutely is a culture problem. However, everyone that we talked to, right, across all the industries, both inside and outside of the classified world, are eager for solutions. It's a pain point for sure, but the common theme that we found was a prioritization issue. The incentives to change just haven't been there, and for many people, it finds its advances in this domain of the security, information and personnel security, just finds its way to the bottom of the list, especially inside a tight resource constrained SAP environment. And so a lot of times it's just, we don't exactly know what to do. We don't know who to talk to. We've thought about it for years and years, but we got to focus on other things right now. So that may help with that culture problem. It's a culture eager for improvement. And then to your second question, we also talked with SAF CN about IT solutions across the Air Force as a whole. And absolutely, the SAPCOs are also looking at things inside the SAP community. A lot of our approach has been initial experiments and proof of concept and feasibilities. So instead of trying to go with the resource, let's write or a requirements process of like, let's figure out the exact solution and then go implement it. We think there's a really good opportunity here to go do some small scale experimentation, see where AI, ML, different database algorithms, those sorts of things can be applied successfully, and then scale upwards from there. But it really needs a top-down champion to coordinate those efforts and move them along, ma'am.
Thank you. I'll let the rest of the panel ask some questions.
I think the good news is you do have a top-down champion, and that's General Hyten. He's been very vocal about this in the last 2 to 3 months on both space systems and other systems. I think what you're seeing is most of the operational folks at the higher levels, once they get read into multiple SAPs, see the need because they see duplications in certain areas, et cetera. It's really the lower levels when they only have 1 or 2 SAPs and they're protecting them. That's where that cultural barrier, at least what I'm seeing at the higher levels, they want this. And they're just having a trouble breaking it down, even if it's a 4-star. Our vice chairman of the Joint Chiefs is having a hard time getting this done. So you definitely have an advocate there. Maybe he can be to you what Alvin was to the previous guys. And if you can get on his calendar, which probably won't be too easy to happen, but he is very passionate on this subject. So I would recommend trying to go in that direction. Another person very passionate is General Corcoran at the Air Warfare Center. And General Harrigan at USAFE is another person that could help you out on this one.
Thanks, General Hecker. We have time for one more question. General Parker or Jeff, did you have any questions for the team?
I defer to General Parker.
Yeah, so pile on, great problem. This is, and I don't think you're going to have a problem finding a champion. There's a great list there from General Hecker. I think your challenges here are, this isn't, obviously this just isn't an Air Force problem. So maybe one idea would be, any work that we do, obviously could be leverages across the joint force, but maybe that's where the beauty of the General Hyten idea is to go right to him, get a champion on the joint staff that has a personal interest in this, and work it that way. I think you guys are onto something. This is going to have tremendous impact if you can get this right. We have to do one way or the other. We have to solve this problem. So whether it's your team doing it or somebody else down the road, we have to get this fixed. So I'm a big fan of what you guys are talking about. I think you got some great ideas. I just maybe it would be more effective if we did this either at the department level or on the joint staff level. But thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Fantastic. Hey, thank you, panel, and especially thank you to Team 3 for that excellent presentation. Our final presentation is a short film from T1, aka Team 1, aka Q Group. They were coached by Lieutenant Colonel retired Megan Allison. All alone, all the other coaches had 2. Megan did it all by herself, so thank you for that, Megan. You may use the chat to ask them questions during the video. And ladies and gentlemen, Q Group on the Aim High Institute.
The innovation space is a complex ecosystem with multiple contours, from culture to structure to funding and follow-through. Navigating this space is not for amateurs, and generating speed across the rough contours of disparate organizations is challenging. Regardless of those challenges, our marching orders are clear. We must accelerate change or lose. Our team has an answer. We're working to bring rapid solutions to the Air Force by building a team of teams, incorporating seasoned subject matter experts and well-developed contacts in what we call the Aim High Institute. It's academia, industry, and the military under one roof. Jeff DeGraff and his team of innovators at the helm. It trains innovators, fully develops problem sets, builds solutions, and coordinates handoffs from designer to developer to warfighter, and it speeds to bring the cycle from years to months. With over $500,000 in funding already and multiple sponsors, including the AFA and PBS, we're already seeing momentum build. That core group also has the ability to stand up diverse and purpose-built rapid innovation teams that pull together the disparate groups, builds connections, develops solutions, and handoffs. They are the execution arm of the Institute. In short, we find pathways around barriers to innovation that make it difficult for you to transfer solutions from development to warfighter, and also finds pathways around barriers for funding. Here again, we have multiple success stories, from working with people in AMC and SAF-AQ to get NORAD's technology back into exercises they lost sponsorship for, to connecting the NGA to the RPA community for their FMV and artificial intelligence efforts. And most recently, when Task Force Southeast stood up to assist in COVID relief efforts, we leveraged our connections with industry to build 2 software tools to help in those efforts. With our team, each of those only took weeks to do and at no cost through the current programs. Our aim high and rapid innovation model is a proven one. Ask us how we do it. Ask us how we can help you.
And you can ask the Q Group in the chat. Great job to all of our teams. We appreciate all of the great questions in the chat, and these teams will be sticking around during our virtual reception to continue discussing these innovations.
We're now going to take a few minutes to recognize all of our coaches and our newly certified professional innovators. While we're doing this, we invite our distinguished judges to convene in the judges breakout room for their award deliberation.
While the judges are deliberating, we're going to recognize our graduates of the Certified Professional Innovator Certificate, Master Innovator or Coaches Certificate, and recognize some innovators who had a special impact on this cohort.
That's right, Liz. I want to give the judges a chance to get over real quick. So General Hecker, sir, the breakout room button at the bottom there, if you click that and then click join deliberation room on there, that'll get you over. And then Jeff, you need to be moved, correct? All right, Eric, if we can get Jeff moved over, that'd be fantastic. And I think General Parker's good to go. All right. All right, Liz. So I feel honored to be able to present the first batch of graduates, the heart of our cohort, our certified professional innovators. Without further ado, next slide. Next slide. You can go 2 more.
Dr. DeGraff, we're working on it. We'll get you pushed over.
So from the Q group, we have Kaveri Crum, John Ireland, Christopher McDonald, Jimmy Quillen, Kristen Spencer, and Michael Whitefoot. Next slide. From Team Rumble, we have Doug Freeman, Eric Roberts, Wesley Spurlock, and Victor Warnsley. Next slide. From Team Redacted, we have Paul Fleitz, Zachary Gray, Galen Hammersberg, Nicole Handy, and Matthew Welch. Next slide. From Team Rumble, I think I read those off. One more, please. There we go. From Collaborative Tissue, we have Philip Edwards, Leighton Grant, Becky Gorman, Felix Knudsen, Gareth Littlechild, and Michael Trotterman. Next slide. From the Technophiles, we have William Imhoff, Jahara Matasek, Matthew Silos, Joshua Rasmussen, Adam Shelton, and Jeffrey Steves. Next slide. And from the Average Joes, we have Christopher Copeland, Julie Jansen, Lance King, Max Robertson, and Kimberly Sloan.
Woohoo!
Next slide. And last but not least, I think this is the last one, Team Ocho, my favorite team, and hopefully the winners of today's competition. Sean Anderson, Richard Henke, Brian Hermes, Chuck McNeil, and Chessie Ricks. Slide. All right, congratulations to our CPI graduates. The coaches, distinguished coaches, and head coach came together today to select the most valuable players for each team. These team members showed extraordinary dedication and teamwork toward driving creativity and innovation in their teams. The MVPs for each team are, slide. From Team 1, Kaveri Crum. For Team 2, Doug Freeman. Team 3, Matt Welch. Team 5, Becky Gorman. Team 6, Matt Silos. Team 7, Julie Jansen. And Team 8, Sean Anderson.
Everybody.
On to you, Liz.
Thanks. We can't run Project Mercury without coaches. We encourage all of our CPI graduates to continue their innovation developmental journey and sign up for the Master Innovator Certificate for Cohort 4. Ladies and gentlemen, please give one more round of applause for all of, oh, thank you, Jason. And congratulations to our newly certified professional innovators and to our MVPs. I got ahead of myself in the script. This is what happens when you're so focused on innovation. You forget where you are at the present. It's my pleasure to present the coaches who earned their Master Innovator certificates. And since I already kind of mentioned that, we really want our current CPIs to think about being coaches. So stick around and talk to us about doing that. Okay, next slide, please. These are our newly graduated Master Innovators: Nicholas Braun, Celeste Drajansky, David Sugar Lyle, Adam Miles, Steve Marshall, Jason Newcomer, Brian Rajan Ralston, and me, Liz Woodworth. Jason. And congrats to everybody.
Oh, thanks, Liz. That was good. That was nice. I like that. So we would be remiss if we didn't recognize a special group of contributors from this cohort would not have been possible without their help. They are the Master Innovators, or coaches, who are 2- and 3-time returnees from cohorts 1 and 2. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me recognize these distinguished coaches for the contribution to cohort 3. Megan Allison, Johnny Barnes, Heidi Gustafson, and Scott Vandewater.
Yeah.
We can't run Project Mercury without coaches. We encourage all of our CPI graduates to continue their innovation development journey and sign up for our Master Innovator Certificate in Cohort 4. Ladies and gentlemen, one more round of applause for all of our coaches.
Yeah, and thanks for saying that again, Jason, because we really can't do this without coaches. And we love it when a couple of coaches can get together and coach a team in duo. It's really an amazing experience. So
it's so much better. It was so fantastic. It's been so fun this time around.
I'm looking forward to doing that. I was a single coach along with Megan this time, and I think it's going to be terrific when I can be a co-coach. It looks like our judges are still doing their thing, right?
Yes, so please enjoy the following slide presentation put on by Montgomery Works or MGM Works while we wait for our judges to return.
At MGM Works, we support Air University and the Air Force at large by generating solutions to the tough military problems through our network of innovators and their cutting-edge technologies.
The benefit of working with MGM Works is that they give us all the tools necessary to make this project possible. They gave us the teams that we could collaborate with and create a product that we were really happy with.
MGM Works came through in spades for us, and we had 3 amazing proposals. We've got a playable demo, and we think that this can be a very, very valuable tool, not just in the space community, but really to the Air Force at large.
We've been able to provide quick and cost-effective solutions to Air Force challenges presented by the Air University students and faculty, while also working to leverage the ideas and solutions for the commercial benefit of our mission partners.
We were able to secure $1.5 million, so I just wanted to say congratulations, but that kind of shows you what a pitch night is all about.
All this in support of our national security interests and also our U.S. national economy. We contribute to the success of the military as well as the local community. We know that we can't succeed at our mission without your help. With the active engagement from our mission partners, both in the public and private sectors, there is opportunity for all to succeed.
Thanks for that, MGM Works. And I just want to say, if you weren't dancing, you were losing out.
What I expect to achieve during this sprint is to collaborate with MGM Works and Bespin and create a software that will give a team chief a streamlined checklist.
Our team chiefs get tasked with
navigating 4 or 5 PDFs at once in order to find 250 steps out of 850 that they see.
These checklists are far too confusing, causing them to focus too much on sorting through the PDF checklist and not performing a safe and reliable load.
During this sprint, what I expect to achieve is to bring a design, an idea to Spark Tank, and it provides us with the support and the funding that we need to get this smart checklist into the hands of our airmen that need it.
If they can win funding there and greater sponsorship, that will drive the Air Force to bring it up in the priority list and bring the effectiveness of this checklist project to bear much quicker for the Air Force.
MGM Works gave us all the tools necessary to make this project possible.
Our purpose in all of this is to make those connections, bring these folks together for the collaboration.
They gave us the teams that we could collaborate and create a product that we were really happy with. This technology is going to give the team chief the ability to enter his input conditions, and it will produce a streamlined checklist with only the applicable steps for that particular load. And weapons load crews are going to load aircraft 36% faster.
This benefits the overarching Air Force goals, which are to drive innovation, to cost effectively modernize, and ultimately to restore readiness in order to win any fight, anytime.
At MGM Works, our mission is to foster the collision of ideas between what the Air Force is working on and with any source of ideas from outside the gate. And this coding sprint is about just that.
The MGM Works Coding Sprint is a collaboration between industry and military with the pursuit of addressing a very small and simple IT problem. And this coding sprint benefits the Air Force community. It's designed to deliver a list of the different events that are going on inside the local area to ensure that the military members are aware of all the activities that they can participate in and the things available for them inside the local community. That'll both benefit the users that are reaching the system to find out about these events, as well as the local businesses that are hosting these events. And the team's been able to accomplish that in the course of this event.
We see great benefit of putting these folks together, generating these ideas, both for this project and for future ones that we plan to run in the coming months.
Product is a result of a collaborative effort by GIs and folks from industries. This is a military-civilian effort.
I appreciate folks. I came in on Sunday afternoon, and the first thing I noticed there was a coding sprint. But I think the biggest story is the fact that this is a collaborative effort. It's about industry and Air Force working together, beginning to solve the problem. So I look at this as the beginning of the next big step. I really appreciate all the work that you guys have done this week. So thank you all.
If it's your job to provide the best technology in support of national security, you know two things for certain. Mission failure is not an option, and solving even the simplest problem can turn into a huge headache. Sure, you've got a great list of traditional partners, but you can't help thinking, if I just had more options to choose from, I might be able to create something even better. Look, supporting our armed forces is a big job, but luckily, you don't have to do it alone. There's a vast ecosystem of experts eager to help you develop the best technology imaginable. And DefenseWorks is your connection to that network. They're a neutral, nonprofit, trusted partner that have created an ecosystem where all ideas are heard and the best solutions filter to the top. So say you need to create a new whatever. Instead of just limiting your scope to the traditional solutions you know about, DefenseWorks and their innovation hubs use their diverse ecosystem of subject matter experts and connections with non-traditional innovators to generate novel solutions to your problem. They can even spark ideas for new projects you hadn't even considered. DefenseWorks has years of experience getting ideas from the drawing board to the field. So when you partner with them, your problem is defined better from the start, so you get to the right solution faster. So let the best ideas prevail. Contact us today to get started, or if you're an innovator who'd like to join our ecosystem, reach out to us at defenseworks.org.
Okay, looks like we've got our coaches or our judges back. And ladies and gentlemen, before we hear from our judges, I'd like to introduce Colonel Johnny Barnes, who you saw was a distinguished coach because he's not just a coach of teams, he's a coach of coaches as well. And he would like to share a few words. Thanks, Johnny.
Thanks a lot, Liz. I really appreciate it. What's that? Ethan. Ethan, with appreciation, you gave us our foundation for innovation. Teaching about creation to serve the nation. You gave us palpitations. Probably need a vacation. But today, enjoy the celebration. Yeah. All right, Ethan. I doubt you enjoyed that, but no matter what, yeah, Liz enjoyed it. I knew she would. Yeah, she's my type.
Johnny Barnes, I will meet you on stage at karaoke at any request as soon as this pandemic is over.
All right, Ethan, brother. In all seriousness, you were the heart and soul of the cohort. I mean, what can we say? I don't know how you did it. I don't know if most people realize, this guy's got not only a full-time job, he's a newlywed. He has other things on the side that he's doing to help, frankly, to help America and to help the local community. And yet you're just indefatigable. You were everywhere, doing everything for everybody, giving us your guidance, connecting us with people, connecting us with information that we needed just at the right moment. You built this syllabus, you executed the syllabus. And really, I mean, you were like Atlas with the world on your shoulders with this. And boy, did you really pull it off. We all owe you undying gratitude. And we're going to get you a little special commemoration in the mail soon. It's certainly not, sufficient for the work that you've done, but we hope you'll accept it as a token with love and with sincere appreciation for all you've done for us. Thank you so much, Ethan.
Love it.
Johnny Barnes, thank you very much. It's been an absolute honor and privilege to work with everybody in the cohort, and I can't wait to get back on the dance floor with cohort 4. So they have a lot, there's big shoes to fill, but we got to keep the concert going.
Thank you, Johnny. Thank you, Ethan. And welcome back, judges. We missed you. We had some exciting MGM Works commercials, though, and films to watch. We know deliberations must have been hard. Everybody is on the edge of their seats, and we're so excited to hear who won which awards. We have the Prismatic Awards, Best Short Film Award, and finally, the Innovation Excellence Award.
That's right, Liz. And first up is Dr. Jeff DeGraff, who will present the Prismatic Awards. Over to you, Jeff.
Actually, it's going to be General Pringle and General Parker.
Copy that.
I think I was going first. This is Heather Pringle, and we're going to start with Collaborate to Innovate. So this is the team that built a community, socialized their solutions. They were great at storytelling and made some novel connections of people. So without further ado, it should be no surprise to any of you that Collaborative Tissue wins the Collaborate Prismatic Award. Congratulations, Team 5.
Thank you, Mom. Thanks, team.
Well done. Well done. And I may as well move on to the second Prismatic Award, which is the color green, Create to Innovate. So in terms of doing something new, a breakthrough concept, or a novel connection of ideas, something that is really a big picture that would make a big impact. So for their ability to create and do something very new, I would like to give the Green Award to Team 8, the Ochos. Congratulations.
All right, General Parker.
Woohoo!
Sir, I think we've got you muted.
Uh-oh.
I told the judges my execs left me, and it's self-help, and that I knew it was going to go south, just a matter of time. But I just want to say thank you, everybody, for giving me this opportunity. It's great to hear all these pitches. It's great to see our airmen doing great things, and it's also great getting to see Johnny Barnes sing. So I recorded some of that, Johnny. That'll come back. We'll see that again here. But it was a great job. Great job by everybody. These were all great ideas, and they're all executable, and they're all going to make our Air Force better. So we're doing great work here, and thanks to Ethan and your team. This is truly outstanding work, and we're all better for it. In the control category, really, which is just do things right. I think this is a team that had an enterprise that is hungry for solutions here. This is a tough one because we know it all needs to be solved, but we're not 100% sure how to get after it. And I think you offered a good way ahead to a very relevant problem, and that is team number 3, Redacted. Congratulations, team number 3. And in the compete category, this again, everybody did a great job of of being ready to identify the next step forward. But I think this team, is ready. And again, you can't argue with the vice chief. So considering they already have 2 thumbs up from the vice chief, I think as our industry partners have already articulated, the payoff here is potentially huge if we get this right. The compete category goes to Team 5, Collaborative Tissue.
Thank you, sir. Thanks, judges.
Congrats, everybody. Thank you so much, judges. Now we're going to hear which team won the Best Short Film Award. Take it away, Jeff.
Yeah, well, there was some really good film, and they represented some really good ideas. I want to make sure that everybody gets recognized for some tremendous ideas, but we thought this idea was one that if you're pushed on, you might be able to get this into the system. And that's Team 6, the Technophiles, and that's the commander's dashboard. An app that makes everybody's life easier. We saw how it connected all the dots. And congratulations to Technophiles, team number 6, for a job well done.
Thank you for that, judges, and thank you, sir.
All right, thank you, Jeff. We appreciate that. Congrats, Technophiles, and congrats to all the winners of Prismatic Awards. Our final presentation is the highest level award in Project Mercury. The Innovation Excellence Award recognizes the team that has pitched the most promising wow innovation idea that capitalizes on constructive conflict. Lieutenant General Hecker, sir, would you please announce the team that won the Innovation Excellence Award?
Yeah, you bet. Well, thanks. When we were deliberating, obviously all 7 teams did some great work, and we appreciate everything that you've done. And I think they all have potential as we move forward. The big thing, these kind of forums that we do are the way that's going to make us accelerate change and win as opposed to lose. So with all that said, I want all of these things to go forward And the best way to get all these to go forward is to give the Innovation Excellence Award to Team 5 Collaborative Tissue.
Hey, Team 5.
So that's fantastic. Thank you very much indeed. And
thank you,
thank
sir.
you to all the judges. Thank you very much indeed. Really proud.
Thank you, sir.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Congrats to Collaborative Tissue. Fabulous name. I think you guys should be a band with the name Collaborative Tissue. I think you would sell thousands of records, millions.
You wouldn't say that if you hear us. So no, maybe not.
I have total faith in you guys. Thank you so much, General Hecker. And thank you, judges, for your time and the commitment to these innovative ideas, listening and giving feedback. This is really important to the innovative process. And for all of the Project Mercury Cohort 3 teams, we're just thrilled to be here. And I know I speak for Jason as well. It's really wonderful to be part of this. And now I'd like to hand over the mic officially to Dr. Jeff DeGraff for his comments.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that, boy, you've come a long way since where we started. And of course, innovators aren't born, they're made. And my hope for you is that this capability that you have is something that you apply in all the different areas to help make the Air Force better and new, to help win the fight. And we are going to really need the culture that you bring, the competency that you bring. We're going to need that in all aspects of everything that you do. This is just the beginning of your journey. It's not going to be easy. It's never easy. But, you know, this is something that you have to really have a passion for to push forward. And it seems to me that the time is right in everything that's going on in the Air Force to start connecting the dots, syncing it up, and really enlisting the base, the body of the Air Force into the fight, because you're such a imaginative group. And I want to just point something out. I've seen so many really good ideas come out of cohort number 3. It's not just the ones that you're pitching here. So I hope that you don't forget those. Most importantly, I hope you keep pushing forward. Remember, you have friends not only in the Air Force, but outside of the Air Force. I hope the Innovatorium is first among them. And I hope that you keep moving forward and inspire those people who follow you ever onward. And thank you for your wonderful participation and your wonderful ideas. Keep moving forward.
Thank you, Jeff. And now I'd like to pass the mic to General Hecker for his closing comments.
Well, thanks. I appreciate it. And as we move forward, first, thanks to all the teams. Thanks to all the commentators that helped out. And Jeff, thanks to you and what you've done as we get to now through our third cohort, have 2 more to go. And then we'll be able to start doing this a little bit on our own. And obviously appreciate being able to reach back to you when we get stumped and those kind of things. But when you look at great power competition in China and Russia, a lot of people kind of compare it to the Cold War. To me, it's not. We're not going to be able to outspend our way out of this. We're going to have to outthink, out-innovate, and then have a process to get those innovations at the appropriate level so that we can actually use them. And that's what this is for. So to the 35 folks that just got this, don't go back to what you were doing and never use this. Because then we'll lose. So can take what you learned here, spread it out to your cohorts, use your innovation thoughts, take risk. You got commanders that will back you up right now. We realize you're going to fail on a couple of them. That's fine. If you don't take the risk, we don't have a chance. So please continue to use it. And thanks for everybody who made this possible. And I'll be looking forward to cohort 4 in what, another 12 weeks?
Thank you so much, General Hecker. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our showcase. Thank you to our YouTube viewers. Thank you to those on Zoom. Those on Zoom, please stay with us for the reception immediately following this event here. And then the merge at 16:30 Eastern Standard Time, 15:30 Central Standard Time. Thank you again to our MGM Works partners for helping us to put on this event today. Feel free to join our teams in the breakout rooms for continued Q&A. Be sure you got the contact information in the chat room and talk about how you can be part of the innovation team. Think about cohort 4 and joining in Project Mercury. It's the future of the Air Force. Please see the chat box for the link to the Air Force A5 merge. Thank you, everyone. Our sincerest congratulations to all of the graduates and the winners today, and to our judges and the organizers, and to my MC, Lieutenant Colonel Jason Newcomer. Thank you so much, everyone.
Great job, guys.
Thanks. It was fun. Everybody did great.
That's awesome. Hey, MGM partners, can we go ahead and stop the recording now, and then we'll